area. People must not build their structures around there. People must not build in the river frontage because it is causing problems.
Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, New Hanover.
At the same time, Johannesburg's emergency services is urging motorists to exercise caution as disruptive rain is expected to persist today. As of this morning, there have been no reports of major incidents resulting from the severe weather conditions. The South African Weather Service issued a level 4 and 5 weather warning for persisting thunderstorms. Joburg EMS spokesperson Robert Mulaudzi.
Extend the safe following distance and try and avoid crossing flooded roads and low-lying bridges. Our residents in our low-lying areas, especially our informal settlements, to continue to avoid crossing river streams while conducting daily activities.
To this now, a Hawks officer and a Tembisa Hospital employee are expected to appear in the Pretoria Magistrates Court today facing charges of corruption. They were arrested yesterday for allegedly offering money to an investigating officer to quash the case against the hospital employee. Mbata has more.
Last Friday, a Hawks sergeant approached his colleague within the same unit who was investigating a Tembisa hospital official implicated in corruption. The 53-year-old Tembisa employee is accused of offering the investigating officer 100,000 rand for the case to disappear. Yesterday, the sergeant along with the hospital staffer gave the investigating officer money. The investigating officer then reported the matter to the Hawks, who subsequently effected the arrest of his colleague and the hospital employee. The Hawks says it is committed to prosecuting corruption linked to the cash-strapped hospital. Jabuli Limbata, Eyewitness News.
To the Western Cape now, where there are calls for the formation of a special task team to deal with the aftermath of the George building collapse. Families of victims and survivors of the May 2024 tragedy shared their struggles with processing claims at a public hearing last week. Parliament's Public Works and Infrastructure Portfolio Committee travelled to George to get a first-hand report from claimants as well as government officials. Kanyisile Fortuin spoke on behalf of a woman who lost her daughter. She says the situation requires a special team to help claimants deal with the various departments as well as processes.
Where is the humanity in these systems? When we enter these departments, they are in full colors with their arrogance. We ask a special task team to deal with this matter. That this matter is just not one matter. People lost their lives.
Fortuin says the families want comprehensive answers as well as justice.
We can never be traumatized and go back to a Department of Labor, a Department of Social Development, and do not get comprehensive feedback. We will never get our families back. There is one thing we know. However, we want justice. And we want those that needs to be held accountable.
And in Belgium, unions have kicked off their 3 days of demonstrations against government's proposed spending cuts and labour law changes. The next few days will see a phased-out approach resulting in closed schools as well as disrupted train and air travel. The strike was called by the main Belgian unions who are in a standoff with Prime Minister Bart De Wever. De Wever is trying to impose a major austerity effort through a series of unprecedented structural reforms. Only a small number, of the measures proposed have been implemented so far, largely because of divisions within his five-party coalition. Gold is trading at $4,069.80 an ounce. The rand is at 17.29 to the dollar, 22.64 to the pound, 19.94 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $62.56 a barrel.
In the Calvin Alex area, we still have those roadworks causing heavy delays on the N3 in both directions. This is between London Road and the Between Interchange. Also heading towards Bedfordview, there's slow-moving traffic in Edenvale on the R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gilulis Interchange, and in the Mother City. Look out for an accident seen in Ottery at Ottery Road near the petrol station, slowing down traffic.
It's a cloudy afternoon in Gauteng, along with showers and thundershowers. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 24 and 26 degrees, while Cape Town is fine with a fresh southeasterly wind at a high of 28 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: search operations for 2 people washed away by floods in KwaZulu-Natal are continuing after one body was recovered this morning.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. You're with Mandy Wiener on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger, think Nedbank Commercial Banking. On the show today, the DA sends the John Steenhuisen and George dispute to its Federal Legal Commission. It's the day after the weekend before. We'll look at the legacy of the G20 and what it means for South Africa, a victory for multilateralism. The NPA head Shimila Batoy is taking heat at the Andrew Chauke inquiry, and we'll wrap up the weekend sport. And today, the Proteas doing well against India. All of that over the next hour.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday Report on 702 and Cape Talk with me, Mandy Wiener. Good to be back with you. I did have a bit of FOMO, missing out on the G20, but my colleagues did an extraordinary job, busy bringing you updates and interpreting what all of it meant. The sense that I've got from speaking to people and looking at it a little bit from the outside, because I wasn't there, was that everyone feels very proud and very patriotic about what we were able to pull off. And, we're so quick to criticize the government. It's important to praise the government too when they get things right. It does feel like we're the adults. We're sitting at the adult table now. And I think important conversations to be had around multilateralism, resetting the relationship and resetting the relations, and a focus on the global south and what our agenda is, and that really I think will be part of the legacy as well. What are your thoughts on watching the G20? How do you feel today, the morning after the weekend before? Is there a pride, a patriotism? Has it impacted on your view of South Africa and the government at all? Send me a WhatsApp voice note, 072 7021 702, 072 567 1567. A few other stories, that lead story in Eyewitness News, that search for people being washed away in the floods, heavy rains in KZN and in other parts of the country. Weather warnings for today too, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then the case against a suspect in the murders of the school principals and an admin clerk has been postponed. What a bizarre story. And the price of life in South Africa, how easy it is to take out a hit on someone, but at least the consequences being seen there. So let me know if there's anything you would like to speak about. But before we get to all of the G20 conversations, let's first start with some news out of the Democratic Alliance. The DA's Federal Legal Commission will now investigate this dispute between John Steenhuisen and George. You've been reading about the messy laundry in the newspapers or online, or hearing about it here, and now they're saying, please let there be a full investigation and stop the mudslinging in the media. Helen Ziller saying that the Democratic Alliance's federal executive met last night to discuss a formal response to the continuing public airing of matters relating to a dispute between senior office bearers of the party, allegations being made on both sides. So let's speak now to the DA's national spokesperson, Karabo Khachao, who joins us to discuss this. Karabo, good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for your time. Tell us about the decision that's been taken by the DA Federal Council.
Good afternoon, Mandy. Good afternoon to your listeners, and thank you for having me here. So, yeah, we met last night as the federal executive to discuss, obviously, what has been circulating in the media. And it is very clear that the DA has never been a party that is pro having conversations about itself, particularly unresolved things in the media. And particularly because there's confusion around what's going on, it was FedEx's decision to then constitute an investigation to mandate the Federal Legal Commission to have a full investigations on this issue. And when I say this issue, I mean all issues pertaining to conversations that have been happening in the media. And you would know that the FLC's, the DA's Federal Legal Commission an end starts with the constitution of the party and ends with
Karabo, are you with us?
of the DA's
Sorry, we lost you. We lost
and
you
its
for
rules
we lost
and
you for a
principles.
second, Karabo. If you can just pick up there. Sorry, we lost the last 15 seconds or so.
Oh, okay. So I was saying you would know that the FLC's start and end is the constitution of the DA, as well as its rules and value system. So what the FLC is mandated to investigate is any breach of the DA's constitutions and our values from all individuals involved, not just, as you outlined, George, the federal finance chair, or the federal leader, John Steenhuisen, but effectively everybody else who has been termed anonymous in whatever conversation that has been happening.
Tell us a bit more about the Federal Legal Commission. How would it conduct such an inquiry? What powers does it have? Who runs it? So that we can understand it better.
So the FLC has a chairperson and let's call them commissioners as such. There are a number of them that investigate a veracity of issues. So what happens is it's pretty much a disciplinary body, Mandy, where a person would internally within the party who is aggrieved and is of the opinion that the person they would be laying charges against has either violated sections of the constitutions or violated the party's values, then the FLC then has the mandate to investigate, to test whether this is true, and if it is, to what extent it is. And then obviously once the investigation is done, they conclude on a recommendation, which is then presented before the federal executive to deliberate on whether to accept it, to amend, or what. So that's the power that the FLC does. It's pretty much, in layman's terms, a disciplinary body of the organization. Right. But beyond, quickly, Mandy, beyond what it is that we have mandated the FLC to do, what we've also done is to issue injunctions to everybody involved. So we've made it clear as the FedEx that nobody moving forward must now be involved in the public prosecution that we've been seeing all over in the media. So because there's an investigation that is happening, the ventilation of all allegations must follow the due course of the FLC so that the process can take its course properly.
Karabo, thank you very much for explaining all of that to us. Karabo Khachau is the DA national spokesperson. So that matter that you've been seeing playing out in the media over John Steenhuisen's credit card bill and the issues with Dion George, who is the finance chair, all of that is now going to go to the DA's Federal Legal Commission for a full investigation and basically being told, do not go to the media on this. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it's damaged the DA? Do you think it's damaged John Steenhuisen ahead of the DA has an electoral conference next year? So do you think that this has been damaging for him at all? Let me know your thoughts on that.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently.
So as I said, it is the morning after the weekend before, and the G20 has come and gone, and everyone I've been speaking to has been saying that they think South Africa did tremendously well. There's a feeling of pride, of patriotism, and praise for President Cyril Ramaphosa as well. The resetting of relations, the focus on multilateralism, the shining of a spotlight on critical global issues such as debt and inequality, and the themes of solidarity, equality and sustainability really being pushed to the fore. We'll bring you some analysis on that in a moment. But before we do that, let's look at the legacy and the assessment of how well it actually did. So Kingsley Lenkokile is the mission director for the G20 Legacy Knowledge Initiative. And Kingsley, good afternoon to you. I appreciate your time. As I understand it, maybe you can explain this better. The Legacy Knowledge Initiative, you really assess whether or not we did a good job and what the legacy of the G20 will be. Is that a correct way to put it?
Good afternoon, Mandy and the listeners. Yes, and I think what we're trying to do as well as South Africa was pushing that we need to own our own information. In this, what we're trying to do is, can we make sure that we document what has come out of this work that has been gone over this entire year? There has been, the government alone had over 1,300 meetings Apart from that, we had the engagement groups like the B20, Y20, T20. They also had many meetings throughout this whole year trying to put together their own policies. So what we are doing from the Knowledge Initiative is to make sure we take all this information, put it within a knowledge hub so that it can be accessed, and we working to make sure that we can explain it to the people on the ground to say, what does this policy mean? If we just listen to Just Transition, mobilizing financing for Just Transition, what does that really mean? What are the opportunities that comes with that? That's what we are doing.
Okay, so many people who look at this from the outside go, G20, what does it mean for you and me, and what is the legacy of this? But when you drill down into it and you detail how many meetings there've been, how much has actually been achieved, there's been a massive amount of work that's been going on over the past year, not just at the kind of political level, but the real nuts and bolts of it. There's been so much that's been happening.
Yes, and I think what people need to understand is G20 is government to government, right? What we had this past weekend was when the political heads of each country sit together around the table and agree what the government officials have worked on the entire year. Those negotiations that they had came from our own government officials from different departments who met with their counterparts from the other 20 countries, and of course we've got the European Union and the African Union as part of this. So a lot of work has gone. There's a lot of information that is out there, and we don't want to sit in a situation like the 2010 where we don't even know where the information is. But for this, it's important because it speaks about how we're going to create employment just on climate. If we're going to talk about reducing climate reduction or disaster reduction, we need to come and see what are those things and what opportunities exist for people to engage, what system needs to be built from there. So it's our communities and the people that are in the ground that this was about them, but they need to understand that the work that comes after this is the implementation. And that implementation doesn't sit with government alone. It sits with us, society, business, academia, and different other parts of our society that needs to work and to make sure that we can all work together to implement some of this.
And I realize this might be quite a broad question, but what do you believe as the Legacy Knowledge Initiative, the legacy of this G20 will be for South Africa?
I think for the gaps that we've seen in widening in multilateralism, I mean, anyone who watched UNGA saw the speeches that were made by some leaders on the platform, and that was something that is really sort of scares a lot of people from different countries. And what South Africa has done is really, from a diplomatic point of view, lead by example to come and say, we believe in multilateralism, and we believe that when we work together, we can achieve some of these things together. And South Africa has done that. They've really championed around our critical minerals to come and say, we need to make sure that critical minerals are not just countries, people don't come here and just extract and go. We need to make sure that we create, we find the right skills, we create jobs, and to make sure that the people in South Africa benefit from those critical minerals. It's not just somebody taking them to another country. And I think from a diplomatic perspective, the president has showed, and South Africa has showed really well who we are and what we stand for, and that will speak for itself in many, many years to come.
Kingsley, thank you very much. Kingsley Lenkokile, the Mission Director for the G20 Legacy Knowledge Initiative, reflecting there on the G20. Real growth needs more than just banking, and Nedbank Commercial Banking is your growth partner. Their team of industry experts understand your business and its potential, offering insight to help you see opportunity where others see obstacles. Because when you can see what others don't, you can do what others can't. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Click season is different from any other ho. Oh? Yes, here's why. Mix and match any 3 festive gifts with a purple sticker.
Oh.
And get the lowest one free. With the famous Clicks Purple Sticker promotion, it's O. Only at Clicks. Feel good, pay less. Deals valid until 24 December or while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Step into a summer of extra with free gifts from Vodacom on all summer deals. Like the Samsung Galaxy S25 FE for just $569 per month over 36 months on a 1 gig Red Core plan. You also get free Samsung Galaxy Buds Core worth $999. Plus, get 5 gigs YouTube data for 3 months and 2 months free YouTube Premium. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
You know what success looks like. Now discover why focus is the driving force behind every success story. Catch 702 in conversation with Momentum on The Money Show with Stephen Critters every Thursday, discussing the science of success. Step into the mindset of top financial achievers and discover how your thinking, behavior, and focus can shape lasting financial success. That's 702 in conversation with Momentum. Thursdays on The Money Show with Stephen Critters. Momentum, your journey to success on 702. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
And now, it's back to Mandy Wiener on the Midday Report.
This is 702.
Let's walk the talk.
12:22 on the Midday Report on the WhatsApp line. G20, lipstick on a pig. You should know that better than most. I wrote a column with that headline. But I did say the work was happening on the ground. What has changed for the average South African now? And then Mandy, to the G20 recently held shows that government is focused on foreign perception as opposed to its citizens, as they managed to hold what is seen as a successful conference, but which fails SA citizens and residents at every level of government. Thank you for those messages. Well, let's get some analysis on this now. We'll do 2 takes. And the first one, a very interesting column written by Juanita Hunter today saying, thanks, Trump, your bullying gave Africa a backbone. Her argument is that Donald Trump's aggressive attempts to bully Africa on the global stage backfired spectacularly, inadvertently forcing the continent's leaders to abandon their historical meekness and assert themselves with unprecedented boldness during the G20. Juanita joins us now. Juanita, good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. You said that for years African leaders have attended global summits. There's lengthy speeches, there's little courage, they preach to the converted, but then in private on home soil they complain about unfair debt conditions, punitive financing arrangements, but this seems to have changed now.
Absolutely. These conversations are not new conversations on the African continent, particularly around debt restructuring, issues around the unfair loan conditions. This has been a problem plaguing the African continent for a very long time. Now, who are Africa's creditors? These are international institutions, European institutions, Western-backed organizations. And so by taking the conversation right to the decision makers is a step up, and that's just one example of it. And so what I argue, Mandy, is that this G20 would have just been another diplomatic pageantry. Remember, it's a forum for world leaders to talk. That's essentially where it goes. We were reminded this morning that the declarations are not binding in any way, but it's kind of aligning agendas so that the world and the richest countries of the world know this is what commonly affects all of us and this is what the right approach to it is. Now, the question around Africa and the significance of Africa would have just been, a nice to have. This is the first time in Africa. But because of the Trump bullying, South Africa and African leaders had to assert and almost fight and prove Trump wrong in many ways. Let's just do a quick comparison, Mandy. Last year, the Rio Declaration mentions Africa 7 times and 2 references to the African Union. This is a full year after the African Union had been admitted as a member of the G20. Compared to this year, Africa is everywhere around that declaration. So the point that I'm making is that on issues around inequality, on issues around the suggestions around what must happen with the IMF, these conversations used to happen in echo chambers and were not taken to the role players who can actually make a difference. And the fact that you have the change of language from European leaders to say the relationship with Africa cannot be paternalistic, that it actually has to be developmental in nature, that Africa cannot be left behind in the AI boom, etc. That, for me, only came as a result of African leaders realizing that they have to grow a backbone.
There's been a lot of praise for Cyril Ramaphosa and how he managed this G20 from his colleagues, the prime ministers of other countries as well, from the media, from the public. You speak about the tactics of Ramaphosa, what you describe as an ambush in a way, the decision to adopt the declaration early. What are your thoughts on the strategy employed there?
I think it was definitely calculated to get to the point of the declaration in the Sherpa meeting was not an easy one, right? So we know that it started on Sunday. By Friday morning, it was declared. The president deciding then against tradition to say, right, I'm putting it up for adoption early on, and then to keep the program moving. Now, I think that it was definitely informed by having an early victory amid the noise, and not to give the U.S. the space at all to fill any vacuum while the world leaders were talking. So the U.S. was not, South Africa did not oblige the U.S. request. The declaration was tabled. It was quickly adopted, and then after that, it was kind of smooth sailing of inputs from world leaders. So was it incidental? No. Was it a slip up? No. I think it was calculated in some way, and I do think that it was to sort of take advantage of the momentum of the diplomatic moment at play by dealing with that early on. And then just letting everything else be symbolic.
So I think that we have a good sense of where this leaves South Africa and Ramaphosa on the global stage now. That I think there's been a lot of praise for him. But I'm interested in your take on domestic politics and whether or not this will change the way South Africans view Cyril Ramaphosa, because so often there's a critique of him. We know the ANC goes to an electoral conference in 2 years' time. He's had a difficult ride with Trump, with the GNU. What do you think this means for him as a president?
I think this G20 was a real legacy moment. We saw a hands-on president. There was no detail that he was not a part of, and I think that played to some degree. He took charge of this in the South African chairing of the G20 presidency, and you could see the consequences. So when we have to reflect on his legacy, I think this is going to be a big moment that stands out. Now, what happens I think that the party political scene is convoluted because everyone is trying to sort of test their powers. So I think the seed that has been planted to start a rebellion against him by suggesting that he must resign after the G20, he had preempted that, you'd recall, at the last NEC meeting and say, okay, tell me when to go and I'll go. So I do think that there will be a limping on of the status quo for some degree, unless there's a bold enough challenger, and those things don't happen overnight. You know, there's caucuses that start, and there's conversations, and then the challenge internally in the party. The question then is how much the ANC has learned from the battering it got at the elections. And again, as everyone is speaking about across Joburg and across South Africa this morning, is that if you could do this for the G20, if you could show such efficiency with the G20, if you can spend as much for the G20, then your disregard for South Africans and the fact that Johannesburg does not look like it does today, any other day, is a complete disregard for citizens. And it shows that if there's political will, things can be reformed. So I think that the big question is, where does the momentum of reform continue after this G20? And that plays a role in how the ANC fares at the local government, which is obviously, Mandy, going to be, I mean, you know this very, very well, that it's going to be catalytic in some way to the GNU, whatever the outcome of the local government election is.
Juanita, as always, thank you so much for coming on. Juanita Hunter, freelance journalist and author, speaking to us today. Go read her column today in News 24, her assessment. My highlight, I think, must have been the Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, using a picture of Tokyo to show how well Joburg looked. Really, you can't make this stuff up. How well Joburg looked for the G20. So what are your thoughts? I'd love to hear your analysis on that. Send through a WhatsApp voice note. Let me know what you think. 12:31, time for Eyewitness News headlines.
Thanks, Mandy. Good afternoon. A grade 12 learner has succumbed to her injuries after being hit by a bus at the Schoenberg Combined School in Hartbeespoort. The learner was one of 4 pupils who were knocked down and rushed to the hospital last week. It's understood chaos broke out at the school after a group entered the premises and a fight broke out. Search operations for 2 people washed away by floods in KwaZulu-Natal are continuing after one body was recovered today. It comes as an alert for severe weather remains in place for the province. KZN has been hit by heavy rain with severe thunderstorms causing localized flooding. And President Cyril Ramaphosa has commended the country's successful hosting of the G20 Leaders Summit, saying it will cement South Africa's role in international affairs. Ramaphosa says the summit will also go a long way in supporting Africa, as well as the country's own growth and creating jobs for all South Africans. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 1 or as it happens.
EWN Sport.
Good afternoon, I'm Tolagile Mganga. It stamps on day 3 of the second test between South Africa and India. The Proteas were at the crease on 26 without any loss, giving them a lead of 314 runs. To resume their innings in the morning will be Ryan Rickleton on 13 alongside Aiden Markram on 12. Earlier, Marco Jansen took 6 wickets as South Africa dismissed India for 201 on day 3 of that second test to leave them 288 runs behind. Switching over to the Premier League, where Arsenal extended their lead at the top to 6 points following a 4-1 win over Tottenham Hotspur in the North London derby. Mikel Arteta says winning had added importance. That's after Manchester City and Liverpool both dropped points.
Yeah, and especially after the Sunderland game, that at the end we lost 2 points in the last kick of the game, basically. And we went to the international break with that bitter feeling because we didn't concede any goals and we had 10 straight wins. And we wanted to get back to earning that momentum again. And the London derby and today's performance, it's a good start.
The Springboks have strengthened their position as the world's #1 side following Saturday's 24-13 win over Ireland. That victory was the Boks' first in Dublin since 2012, and next up is Wales. Ahead of it, Rassie Erasmus has revealed that most of his overseas-based players will be unavailable. That's for the non-test window fixture.
All the guys that plays in the Premiership, guys like Thomas, guys like Buan, RG, guys like Edwell playing URC, Kirtley is obviously out, don't even mention Fassi is out. Grant is going back to the Sharks, he must play there. We spoke to our URC friends out in South Africa, so yeah, we'll probably try next week with only 25 players. There's quite a couple of guys that must also go back to Japan.
Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are traveling through Alex Calvin area, we still have those roadworks causing delays on the N3 in both directions between London Road and the Platoon to change. Otherwise, the rest of Gauteng not looking too bad. No serious accidents have been reported. Just look out for those faulty traffic lights in Edenvale, Morafontein Road and Van Riebeek. In the mother city, there's that accident seen in Ottery at Ottery Road near the petrol station. And look out for faulty traffic lights in Strand at Gordons Bay and Broadlands Drive. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actis-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Who says everyday driving can't be très chic? Rent premium with Sani Sixt now. Own the stylish Citroen C3 later. Yes, that's 3 cars, 3 months, 3 chances to say ooh la la. Just book directly on sani.co.za. Call us or rent at any branch between 1 November and 31 January, and you're automatically entered into the draw. Bon voyage with Sani Sixt and Win. T's and C's apply.
And the award for the spiciest stunt performed in a bowl goes to Tom Yum Cruise.
Thank you everyone. Wow, what an honor. I'd like to thank the chilies, the lemongrass, and of course, Simply Asia, for believing in my flavor.
It's the summer of stars at Simply Asia. Stand a chance to win a Toyota Starlet when you spend 200 Rand or more on our famous flavors. Order now. Simply Asia, connecting the Thaiway.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a shift worker making his way home and daydreaming about his next career move, his next chapter. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a possible light bulb moment that could change someone's life. Every story is different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
WhatsApp Mandy
on 072 702 1702.
Hi, man, and the team. Yeah, man, on Ramaphosa. I think Ramaphosa deserves more credit than we give him. I mean, number one, during his presidency, we were deregistered from the grey list. We got an upgrade. Our ratings have been upgraded. Number three, the rand is not doing bad. You know, the economy might be not growing as much, but the rand is not doing bad. And yeah, now the G20, I think that's not bad at all from Ramaphosa. Yeah, we still know about Phala Phala and all the other things in the ANC and its governance, but I think it's doing good.
Hi, Mandy. This is Catherine from Sandton. The ANC is very good at spending money and putting on huge shows, but when it comes to managing the country, they suck.
Okay, I mean, that was descriptive. So, look, I think, as Quinita said, one of the frustrations has been that if you can do this, if the political will is there, if you've got the budget, if you can pull off something to this scale, why can't you just deliver services on a daily basis? So while I am full of praise and everyone is full of praise for the government and what was achieved during the G20, the frustration from you and me and residents, particularly in Joburg, where the G20 was held, is, well, you know, why can't you do this the rest of the year? Why can't you do this when there's no G20? Why can't you get my water and electricity to work properly and collect my refuse and fix the potholes? Instead of literally painting the lines white when heads of state come into the city. And I think that really is the frustration for many people.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently.
Well, let's look at some domestic affairs now. The Commission of Inquiry into the Director of Public Prosecutions in Joburg, Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office, is continuing. The NPA head, Shamila Batoy, is giving evidence there. She has been giving evidence for, I think, 2-3 few days now, and she's taking some heat from the commission. Let's find out more with Khomotso Modise, EWN reporter, who joins us in studio. So Khomotso, just remind us what Shamila Batoy is there to do.
Well, Mandy, you remember that it was Shamila Batoy who initially laid a complaint against Johannesburg prosecution's boss, Advocate Andrew Chauke. And this was immediately after she was appointed, around 2019. She was appointed as NDPP, and one of the first matters that she dealt with is the allegation of improper conduct against Advocate Andrew Chauke. And this is particularly based on the decisions, the prosecutorial decisions that Andrew Chauke made while he was Johannesburg prosecution's boss. Now, this Commission of Inquiry is investigating two of those two cases that Shamila Batoy has basically focused on in her complaint that she submitted to President Cyril Ramaphosa. The first is on the prosecution of former KZN Hawks boss, Johan Boysen, as well as the prosecution or the failure to charge former crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli with a charge of murder. today it's been interesting, Mandy, to see how Shamla Batoyi has been testifying, and the commissioners in this inquiry have really been questioning her and pressing her on her claims against Advocate Chauke. They're asking whether the evidence that she's led so far, the evidence that she's given so far, speaks to the terms of reference and the allegations that she's made, particularly around whether Advocate Chauke acted improperly, but also if he acted unlawfully, which is something that she has said. And we've heard the commissioner, the chair of the commission, that is retired Justice Besan Kabinde, highlighting the fact that there does seem to be some sort of a disconnect between what Shamla Batoyi has been testifying and the terms of reference, and whether or not what she's testifying actually speaks to what the commission or the inquiry is all about. Let's take a listen.
And this evidence is really the crux of the case, because Advocate Batoyi is laying the foundation of why we are here. And we need to understand this foundation correctly. Because other witnesses, as you referred to Advocate Mlochwa, are going to either confirm their affidavit, the contents of their affidavit, or the evidence of Advocate Batoyi. So I don't want us to have that disjuncture. We may just lose the connection. That is why I keep on taking you back to the terms of reference, so that we understand the relevance of this evidence to the terms of reference themselves. I don't know whether it helps you, Counsel, but we get confused because we keep on referring us to bundles or legal opinions, and we just need to get it right.
So, Khomotso, if I understand this correctly, Shamla Batoyi laid the initial complaint. So the terms of reference are determined by that complaint, but the evidence she's leading is not speaking to those terms of reference. So is it incumbent upon her to prove the allegations against Andrew Chauke?
Absolutely, Mandy. He who alleges must prove. And Shamla Batoyi has basically said in her complaint that Andrew Chauke, based on the prosecutorial decisions that he's made, is not fit to hold office. That's why this inquiry is actually around his fitness to hold office. And so it's then on Batoyi to prove this, or prove the allegations that she's made against Chauke. And that's why she spent the morning today going through email communication between Chauke and the former Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions from KZN, who Batoyi claims that Chauke had basically stepped over his authority and had acted out of his bounds. She is working to prove that how Chauke had acted, particularly when he was leading the prosecution's team that was investigating Johan Boysen, was unlawful. And as a result, he's not fit to hold office.
Khomotso, thank you very much. Khomotso Modise, EWN reporter, looking there at Shamla Batoyi, who is currently giving evidence there at Andrew Chauke's inquiry. Let's take a quick listen in to what she's saying.
Part of the prosecution memo, if you look at the page numbers they follow, and it appears that this prosecution memo proceeds right until page 43, which is LO 3339. So that's one document, the prosecution memo. And I should indicate that, no, I think that's all for now.
Now, what is contained in this letter, in this application for authorization that you referred to earlier, dated 10 July 2012, together with the prosecution memorandum.
Sorry, just a moment. If you take me there again.
I'm taking you back to LO2, LO 00297.
Yes, I'm there.
Pretty technical stuff there. Page numbers, chapters, paragraphs, where they are. Shamla Batoyi currently giving evidence there, having a bit of a difficult time at that inquiry into Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office.
702, the Midday Report, Monday to Friday.
12 to 1 p.m.
12:45 on the Midday Report. Two matters that I want to speak to the Hawks about. The one is this bizarre case of the Zuma daughters who now a formal complaint has been a case opened by Nkosazana Zuma Ncube, accusing her sister Duduzile of luring men into the Russia-Ukraine conflict. That's the one. The other is a court appearance today in this case of a school principal and a clerk that was murdered in Tembisa. Brigadier Nomtandazo Mbambo is the Hawks spokesperson and joins us now. Brigadier, good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for your time. Brigadier? Brigadier, are you with us? Can you hear us, Brigadier? Are you there? No. Okay, so we'll try and get the Brigadier back. Two stories that I want to pick up on. They're two very important stories. So we'll take a little break and we'll come back with the Brigadier.
You are not dreaming. You are repeating. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Insurance, pineapple. Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
Those trusty old shoes. There for your first move out of home. That marathon training that lasted a day. The quick runs to the store. The long nights out. Yeah, they've done the most for you. But with the Street Store, they can do even more for someone else. Visit thestreetstore.org to find out more about donating your pre-loved shoes and clothes to the world's first rent-free pop-up clothing store for the homeless. Donate before December 6, 2025.
Zinzi, the Gen Z. Word on the street is you sold your car.
Yes, and you know I needed a glow up. Hashtag no hustle, no hassle.
So wait. The influencer got influenced by We Buy Cars.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And they came to me. They checked the car, they gave me an offer. Oh, and they paid me immediately. Easier than an Insta Live, without the weird DMs at 2 a.m.
I didn't understand half of the things you just said, but hey, We Buy Cars. Geared for the glow up, geared for you.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
On the next Money Show, we'll hear from the chief executives of African Bank, Netcare and PPC as they unpack their latest company results. Then we turn to the art world with Marlies van Sail, CEO of Aspire Art. Plus, we'll bring you expert analysis of all of the top business news of the day.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show, Stephen Curtis, is brought to you by ABSA CIB. Invested in your story and inviting you to write it with them. ABSA is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
WhatsApp Mandy
on 072 702 1702.
Mandy, these guys are good to impress the world. This is Cyril Ramaphosa. This is what he's been doing in his government. Going out there, being a tourist, impressing the world, fighting for other countries, what, human rights, this. But here at home, it's a mess. They're failing to fight for the citizens. So charity to us begins at home. That's their contradiction.
Thank you very much. Views there on Ramaphosa. I asked the question whether or not his handling of the G20 and the praise that he's getting, has that impacted on your view of him and how he deals with domestic issues? So keep sending those through. We'll chat to the Brigadier in a little while. She's busy with some other interviews there. So we'll get there. But firstly, before we do that, let's have a look at the impact of severe thunderstorms, blistering winds, heavy rain, hail in at least 4 provinces, including Gauteng. Those are the warnings that are out. 3 people being washed away in KZN. 1 body has been recovered, 2 people still missing. Nhlanhla Mabaso, EWN reporter, joining us now. Nhlanhla, good afternoon to you. Tell me about the emergency services search there and what's been happening.
Well, Mandy, although they've taken their break now, they've recovered 1 body of a woman approximately 50 years old. It's believed that she's part of the 3 people that were swept away by this Njasuti River yesterday when the heavy rains took place. There was a warning alert from the South African Weather Services, a level 5, which then turned into level 4 for severe thunderstorm and heavy downpours. If you look at this river, Mandy, it's caused devastation. But most of the houses, I must mention, that are destroyed here are houses that are on the flood line, Mandy, and this is something Human Settlements, MEC Siboniso Duma, has raised concern about, to say this is a call they've been making to people that do not build a house in flood-prone areas, but their concern mainly is that these are informal settlements, to a point that when they arrived this morning to assist these people by evacuating them to community shelters for safety, a lot of them fled the community shelters, saying that they'd rather be with their next of kin. And this is because a lot of them are foreign nationals, undocumented, so government in that cannot assist, because if they are being assisted, then government would be able to then detect that these people are not supposed to be in the country. They're in the country legally. But that search is expected to continue after lunch. But search and rescue teams and disaster teams are raising concerns that while they want to return and continue with the search, this rain may cause more damage to what we've seen here, because there's more rain expected, and that has been also confirmed by the authorities, Mandy.
Sure, Nhlanhla, thank you very much. Nhlanhla Mabaso, EWN reporter, speaking to us there, as he has described. One body has been recovered, 2 people still missing, and there are warnings, orange level 5 warnings for severe thunderstorms producing heavy downpours, hail and excessive lightning that will lead to flooding of susceptible roads, low-lying areas and bridges, damage to infrastructure and properties as well. So if you are in Gauteng, Limpopo, the Highveld of Mpumalanga as well, watch out for those warnings.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. Like the eager beaver driving to meet the woman of his dreams. Butterflies in his stomach, GPS on full volume. He checks his hair for the 7th time. Looking good. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic. It's a possible love story on the move. Every story is different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
702 and the Discam Foundation are shining the spotlight on the health matters you want to know more about. Here's what we explored this month.
What I've experienced working with young people is the massive lack of father figures is actually playing out in a specific way.
So where do we start?
The younger you can get these kids, the more easy and susceptible they are. Also, on the other side, in sports teams, there's always been this culture of initiation. If we have to look back in Moliton, with those boys. So it's almost like sick masculinity that just keeps on repeating itself. Hence, the boys are actually doing what they're doing. If we can get that out of teams, then we can actually nip it in the bud.
In Conversation on Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by the Discam Foundation, caring for the community on 702.
There's so much news to take in.
By the end of the day, you just want it all to make sense.
That's why you listen to John Perlman on your drive home.
You may not always get the answers you want,
but you're guaranteed better questions
and all sides of the story.
Every show is an attempt to tie up any loose ends
and give you a better view of where things stand before you get home.
John Perlman is on 702.
Monday to Friday,
3 to 6 p.m.
Let's walk the talk.
Sports Wrap.
Sports Wrap.
On 702 and Cape Talk.
Mwanda Mateza joining us in studio to take a look at the weekend sport. Before we get into the weekend, let's talk about right now. The Proteas are doing super well at stumps. Where are we at the moment?
Well, the Proteas went to stumps in their second innings on 26 without loss. They lead by 314 runs at the end of day 3. And that is after they bowled India out for 201 earlier today, with Marco Jansen taking 6 wickets. I am a little surprised at how well the Proteas have done in this particular test. I thought that India would put up a much stiffer fight than they have at the moment. But South Africa's bowlers have been absolutely terrific. Once again, with the spinners first getting a couple of breakthroughs early in the first session today, and then with Marco Jansen just blitzing the middle and lower order as well. It was absolutely fantastic performance.
Just to see the Proteas do so well in India.
Yeah, and it's one of those things again. I don't think that even with their World Test Championships winning status, a lot of people before the series didn't rate the Proteas' chances at all, especially after they'd drawn the previous series in Pakistan last month. And a lot of people in India were talking about, well, it's going to be a pretty routine and easy win for India, despite the fact that they've struggled at home in recent times as well. So, yeah, Proteas are really, really doing well at the moment.
And the Springboks finally getting that monkey off their back, winning in Ireland at the Aviva.
Yeah, look, the 11-point margin at the end of the day makes it look like it was a closer game than it actually was. I think the Springboks had an opportunity to completely dominate the Irish side, and they did in the scrums. I don't think Ireland were competitive at all. And I think there was a point where Ireland had 12 players on the field, owing to all the yellow cards and red cards that they'd received. And probably the Springboks should have stamped their authority even more in that particular phase of the game. But I think at the end of the day, the fact that the Springboks got in a hard-fought victory would satisfy the Springbok coaching staff and the Springbok team as well. I do wish that it was a little bit more emphatic, but you're not going to have those every week. So I think the most important thing was to get that victory and erase that 13-year winless streak.
And drama in F1, hey?
Incredible. So Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri got disqualified from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Max Verstappen had won it. It raced Lando Norris's podium finish and elevated Kimi Antonelli up onto the podium with George Russell finishing in second eventually. And what that does is it makes the title run-in even more exciting. There are now 24 points between Max Verstappen, the current world champion, and Lando Norris. And he's tied, actually, Verstappen with Oscar Piastri in second place, with 58 more points to race for this season. 2 weekends, and one of the weekends in Qatar this weekend is a sprint weekend as well. And now the thing with that makes it exciting for me anyways, is that McLaren haven't done well in sprints. I mean, it's only 8 points, but, I mean, with the margin so close, it could be important. And that 8 points also, I mean, last sprint race was in Brazil earlier this month, and both McLarens didn't manage to finish in that particular one as well. So with everything that's going on with McLaren at the moment, I still think that their door could possibly be open for Max Verstappen to sneak in a fifth world championship.
So it actually served Piastri's purposes for McLaren to be disqualified, if that makes sense, because it narrowed the gap to Lando.
Oh, yeah, I think it would have, actually. You're right, in a way. But I'm very nervous about this one, actually. Like, I'm jittery as I speak about it because I've got a favorite who I'd want to win, but that's exactly the thing.
Keith has a message for you. Would like to hear from your sports host. Can Liverpool afford to play without Salah during AFCON? Man United must play without Mboemo, Arsenal and Chelsea, African in their squads. What are your thoughts?
I think it would be better possibly for Liverpool to have Salah away at the moment. I think Salah for his national team plays a lot better. He's off form at the moment and a little off colour. Doesn't look like the Salah of old that we've known. I think that maybe some time away at AFCON, maybe comes back in better form than he has been. I think could do him a little bit of good. And having said that, I don't think Salah's been the problem at Liverpool this season. There's a lot more.
I think Arno Slot is the problem. It's basically what you're implying, right?
Possibly, but also some of his decisions haven't made sense. I think Ryan Gravenberch is one of their most important players and needs to be in the middle to offer a lot of solidity. And when he isn't playing and when he isn't great, the whole Liverpool team falls apart. And also on a slot, yeah.
It may be the year that your team actually wins the league. And in case anybody's wondering, that is Arsenal that is currently
don't
top
say
of the
that
lot.
loud. We're all excited about it and we're enjoying it at the moment. But I don't think any Arsenal supporter really wants to say this is our season. I know people are confident and we're hopeful, but I'm going to keep our hopes.
Oh, and the other thing, of course, Italy winning their third Davis Cup in a row at World Championships of Tennis. Mwande, thank you very much for wrapping up the weekend sport for us.
The Midday Report.
Thank you very much for listening. The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk was brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. It's 1:00.
This is EWN.
A grade 12 learner succumbs to their injuries after being hit by a bus, and the search continues for 2 people swept away by floods in KZN. Good afternoon, I'm